Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto got mass harem with Hanabi Ino and Shizune part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. The day finally arrived. Naruto dressed in black Anbu style pants, dark blue shirt with a Chunin style vest over that with his scrolls, shuriken and kunai pouches tied to his legs and strapping his mother's kodachis to his lower back. He left the palace and headed toward the gate. Once he arrived he saw a crowd of people outside. He opened the gates and he walked to the center of the capital with the people following him. Once he arrived he saw a stage and thousands of people there. He stepped onto the stage and the people quieted down. Thank you for coming. I'm sure many of you are wondering what is going on, and if you let me finish my story I promise you I will answer any questions. As some of you may remember, during the Third Great Shinobi World War the Kingdom of Whirlpool was attacked by both Iwa and Kumo. The royal family fought against the attackers to give time for the people to escape. They put up a great fight, but even with their bloodline there were simply too many enemies. So one by one they fell, knowing that at least they made sure the people lived. Now many of you believe that the entire royal family was killed, but that is not true. One member survived and that person was Uzumaki Kushina, the royal princess. She was able to flee the country with dreams of rebuilding it. She fled to Konoha where she joined their forces and became a powerful kunoichi, and she slowly fell in love with a man named Namikaze Minato. Each became famous under the titles Konoha's Red Death and Konoha's Yellow Flash. The man eventually became the Yondaime Hokage and the two got married shortly thereafter. She told Minato of her past and he pledged to help her however he could. Then Kushina found out that she was pregnant with a boy. She and Minato were very excited at starting a family. They had to keep their marriage and her pregnancy a secret though to protect them from their enemies. Only their closest friends knew. They decided to name their child Naruto, the main character from Minato's sensei's first book. But the happiness was not to last for long, as evil men were planning something terrible. They traveled to the greatest of the Biju Kyuubi no Yoko's den where they attacked her and forced her to attack Konoha. As the Yondaime received news of more of his ninja dying, he knew there was only one way to defeat Kyuubi. So after a lengthy fight with Kushina they agreed to induce her pregnancy 3 weeks early. With their son born the family spent a few minutes together before he left with his son in his arms toward Kyuubi. You see, there is only one way to defeat a Biju and that is by sealing it. But a being as powerful as the Kyuubi would require the strongest of containers, and ironically the strongest of containers that can contain a being such as Kyuubi is a newborn baby that can adapt to the Biju's chakra. But that is only half the problem. The other half is a seal that is strong enough to contain it inside the container. So with great regret and sadness the Yondaime summoned the Shinigami who along with his own seals sealed the Kyuubi into his newborn son at the cost of his life. With the deal done and the Kyuubi now sealed into his son, he was told by his closest friends that his wife and mother of his child had died shortly after he left due to complications from birth. With the thought that his son was now going to grow up without his parents, he made his final wish for his son to be seen a hero for stopping the Kyuubi and then left to join Kushina in the afterlife. But the villagers and shinobi did not honor his wish. They only saw the boy as the Kyuubi reborn. They demanded his death, so the Sandaime passed a law forbidding anyone speaking of the Kyuubi sealed into the boy, but that did not stop them. They would hire assassins and would chase him and beat him as soon as he could walk. They would try to starve him to death, and if it wasn't for Kyuubi's healing powers he would have died before his 5th birthday. The orphanage he lived at would make him sleep in a closet, then when it rained sleep outside. They kicked him out on his 4th birthday where he lived on the streets for 6 months before the Sandaime found out and got him the only apartment that would let him live there, in the slums. Then finally the day that changed his life appeared. It was his 5th birthday and the 5th anniversary of the Kyuubi's defeat. Naruto traveled outside wanting to have fun like everybody else, but this was not to happen. The people soon spotted him and chased him into a dead end. They approached the crying boy and started beating him, stabbing him with poisoned weapons and smashing his head against the wall till his skull cracked. Then finally, to end it, one ninja went through hand seals for a kaiden jutsu and set the boy on fire, where he finally passed out. When he woke up, he appeared in the seal where he met Kyuubi, who explained to him why the people hate him and the truth of why she attacked. He also met his parents with the help of the Shinigami. But even with Kyuubi's healing abilities, the boy was still dying. The injuries were just too much and the seal wouldn't allow any more of Kyuubi's chakra to leak through. So the Shinigami made an offer. He would alter the seal that would create a third bloodline for Naruto that would heal him from almost any attack. He'd even be able to regrow limbs and live a longer life than others. But instead of the seal changing Kyuubi's chakra to his own at the age of 25, it would be finished on his 16th birthday. After agreeing to this, Naruto hugged his parents one last time. For the next year he trained in the Namikaze compound in secret with the help of Kyuubi. Then on his 6th birthday he left the village to travel the world and continue his training, vowing to rebuild his mother's kingdom and become the greatest Hokage Konoha has ever seen. He paused, looking at the crowd. He could see the shocked looks and the tears in their eyes. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. I am the son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. I promise to each and every one of you that with your help I will rebuild the kingdom of Whirlpool and make my family and all of you proud of me, and I never break my promises. And with that he unsealed the sword of the king into his hand and held it up for all to see. They started cheering and chanting, "King Naruto," over and over. He slowly made his way through the crowd as he shook the hands of the men and was hugged by the women. He told them that he was planning on leaving to continue his training shortly after his 11th birthday, which was in 2 months, and help the people until then. He also told them to keep this a secret until he revealed himself to the world. They all swore on their life to their king. During the 2 months, Naruto continued training with his clones and had his clones help the people as well. Buildings were built and fields of food were plentiful. He upgraded the seals on the royal palace as well as adding Fu's blood to the seal to allow her entrance. He celebrated his 11th birthday with the people, then he retired to his bed in the main bedroom when he appeared in his mindscape. He walked toward the house Kyuubi had added to the seal. He walked in and saw Kyuubi lying down on the couch. He walked over to her and lifted her head up before sitting down and resting her head on his lap. He smiled at her as he ran his hand through her hair. They had been doing these types of things a lot recently. He knew he had feelings for her and he was pretty sure she did as well. He wanted to kiss those soft red lips of hers so bad recently, but thought he was too young or she'd reject him or some other lame excuse. Screw it, he thought, and leaned down and captured her lips. Kyuubi was enjoying the sensations Naruto caused her, and all he did was things like run his hand through her hair. She was in love with him and would see a look in his eyes every now and then. She was broken out of her thoughts when she felt lips on her own. Her eyes snapped open and saw Naruto was kissing her. OMG, he's kissing me. My first kiss and Naruto's kissing me, she thought. She calmed down and returned the kiss. He started to get more aggressive, in her lips, making her and part her lips slightly, allowing his tongue to sneak in. He didn't know what he was doing, but he knew he liked it, and by the sounds she was making, so was she. They battled their tongues for dominance until Naruto won and he ravaged her mouth. Hers only encouraging him. After 5 minutes of the most pleasant thing either had experienced, they broke for air. He regained air and stared into her amazing ruby eyes. He put his hand on her cheek. I love you, Q-chan. I've had feelings for you for a while now. You are my best friend and one of my precious people. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, he said. Kyuubi started crying as she hugged him and kissed him again. I love you too, Naru-kun. I've loved you for so long. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to have your kiss. To spend so many first times with you. To tell you the truth, that was my first kiss, and what a kiss it was, she said and blushed at the end. Naruto just chuckled at her before he picked her up bridal style heading to the bedroom where they laid down with her head on his chest. They fell asleep with happy dreams. Naruto left the next morning making sure he had everything he needed. He added another section to his mindscape to keep the scrolls he planned to bring with him from the library in the royal palace separate from the Namikaze library. When he left the gate and approached the exit of the capital, he saw a crowd of people. I promise to return, and when I do we can begin the real rebuilding of our country, he said to them. He noticed some tears from the children and he opened his arms and they ran to him, tackling him to the ground. Shish, it's okay. While I'm gone, get stronger to protect your precious people, and when I return you can help me rebuilding our home. The women along with Kyuubi looked on and smiled at the scene, thinking, he'll make a wonderful father, with some blushing and having nosebleeds including Kyuubi. He finished the goodbyes and headed towards Lightning Country. Ready Koishi, he thought. Kyuubi smiled and thought back, ready Naru Koi. Naruto traveled east and reached Rice Field Country within 2 weeks. He traveled through when he ran into 5 shinobi with a headband he didn't recognize. On the Hitai was a symbol of a music note. He eyed them before saying, "What do you want?" The apparent leader of the group spoke up, "We are looking for shinobi willing to join us and serve our master. He is a powerful man and if you interest him he can grant you great power." Naruto thought for a second before saying, "Who is your so-called master? Also, I have never heard of a Hitai with a symbol like that. What is the name of your village?" The leader smirked before saying, "We serve the great Orochimaru-sama. He has created his own village here in Rice Field Country called Otogakur no Sato. Now since you know too much information you can join us or you can die." Naruto's and Kyuubi's blood boiled at the mention of Orochimaru. So that bastard is creating his own village. I need to take care of these fools quick, then look around for some information, he thought. Sorry, but I'm not interested in serving a pedo like Orochimaru, and with that said Naruto created 4 clones to deal with the others while he took on the leader. He didn't even break a sweat against them and searched their bodies and taking one of their Hitai before burning the bodies. He created 200 clones and had them travel the country gathering any info they could. He traveled and ended up in a town that looked it was doing quite well. He ventured into a section called Fuma Alley, after a quick henge no jutsu into a 20-year-old version of himself. He walked into a club called Club Lie Down, and after spending some money coming up with nothing he left and turned into an alley. He saw that he was surrounded and looked on with a bored face at the apparent leader who had a zanbato on his back. I suggest you hand over anything you have before we have to hurt you. My name is Fuma Hanzuki and this territory belongs to the Fuma clan, and since you're in it that means we own you as well, but we'll let you go. Just hand over the stuff, the man identified as Hanzuki said. Naruto just looked at the man and replied, no. Then he smiled. Hanzuki just shook his head and said, I warned you, then charged at Naruto. Naruto just stood there charging chakra to his hands while he watched the man draw his zanbato. He lifted it above his head then drew it down. What happened next shocked everyone but Naruto. Naruto caught the blade in his right chakra-covered hand then punched Hanzuki right in the gut with his left chakra-covered hand and watched as he flew down the alley and was knocked out. Naruto looked around him and spoke to a girl who looked about 13. Am I correct in assuming you own the bar I came out of? She nodded, unable to speak. Good. Follow me and pick up your leader. We shall let him recover in there. I have a few questions to ask. And with that he walked up to her and put a hand on her cheek looking her in the eyes. Did you get all that? She blushed and nodded, ordering the others to do as instructed. By the way, I didn't get your name. The girl responded, Fuma Kotoheim. He smiled at her, causing her to blush again, saying, That's a beautiful name, before he headed back to the club with her and the others behind him. Once Hanzuki regained consciousness, Naruto summoned Kodohime into the room with them and closed the door, locking it and going through hand seals too fast for them to see, put up a privacy jutsu. Then he dropped his henge and turned to look at their stunned faces. This is the real me, and I put up a privacy jutsu so no one can hear us. They both just nodded, both shocked that Hanzuki had been defeated so easily by a child younger than Kodohime. Now I want information on what's been going on in this country, especially regarding Orochimaru and this new village of his, he said, then showed them the forehead protector. Hanzuki asked, "Where did you get that from?" Naruto looked at him with a serious face. "On my way through this country I ran into 5 shinobi who wore these forehead protectors with a symbol I've never seen before. They told me they were looking for other shinobi to join them and their master. I asked who they serve and the name of the village. The leader of the group told me what I wanted to know, thinking he could scare me into joining the village or die knowing the information I had. That was foolish, as I killed him and the others, then burned their bodies before taking this Hiite and anything else valuable," he finished. Hanzuki and Kodohime looked at the boy who just claimed killing 5 shinobi, at least Chunin rank each, like it was nothing, but with the look on his face knew it was true. Hanzuki sighed before starting. "Well, it started 2 years ago when Orochimaru visited the daimyo of this country and somehow convinced him to let him build a hidden village that he named Otogakure no Sato, and with that Hanzuki, with comments from Kodohime, told Naruto everything. How he convinced some members of the clan to join him to gain the power to rebuild the Fuma clan. When he ended, he looked at Kodohime, who nodded back. There's one more thing, but it concerns the laws of our clan. When the leader is defeated by someone else, then that person becomes the new leader of the clan, and since I was the leader and you defeated me, that makes you the new head of the Fuma clan," he finished. Naruto pondered this. Well, this sure is an interesting predicament and a useful one, he thought. "Hey Q-Hime, what do you think of this?" And with that he explained his plans. "Sounds like a good idea, Naru-kun," Kyuubi replied. He gave her a mental kiss on the lips that made her smile. Naruto opened his eyes and looked at them. "Alright, if I am going to be the head of this clan, then I need to explain some things to you too, as you both will be in charge when I'm gone, with Hanzuki my second in command and you Kodohime my third in command. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, son of Konoha's Yondaime Hokage and Konoha's Red Death. Their names were Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. My mother was the royal princess of the former Whirlpool Kingdom, and part of my plans are to rebuild it. I was coming from there on my way through here. I also plan on killing Orochimaru for personal reasons. My first order is I want you to keep your eyes and ears open. I want information on what is happening, and I'll collect every month by sending a shadow clone who you'll give any information you have and tell him anything else. One of the benefits of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is anything it learns is transferred back to the original. I'll send one of my summons with the clone, and if you need to give me anything, give it to the summon and it will return to where I am. Also, the most important order I give is don't die. You two cannot tell anyone my full name or my heritage yet. I'll just go by Uzumaki Naruto for now. I'll spend a week here getting caught up on everything that you have been doing. Also, no more of this gang stuff. I'll give you some money that should last for a year, and then I'll send some with the clones later on till you guys can run on your own." They both just nodded. Kodohime blushing, thinking how commanding he can be. Hanzuki was just glad they found someone who can help the clan with honest motives. Naruto left. Club lie down. After the week and after getting a kiss on each cheek by Kodohime and a girl he met during the week he took a liking to as well by the name of Sasama, who was the same age as him, he left heading toward Lightning Country once more. Naruto traveled for 2 weeks until he reached Lightning Country's border at the beginning of November. He decided to travel to Kumogakure no Sato first to try and get their bingo book and stock up on supplies, then travel along the eastern coast while working on his water manipulation, then inward towards the mountains to practice his earth and lightning manipulations. He arrived at the entrance of the village after 3 days. Halt. State your name and purpose for your visit, stated one of the guards. Naruto had decided to henge into a teenager with a basic build with brown hair and black eyes. My name is Toshiro. No surname. I am traveling the world and have come here to rest and restock my supplies, Naruto replied. The guard looked at Naruto for a couple seconds before writing down the information and allowed him through. Naruto found a hotel and rented a room for a couple nights. He took a look around his room and went through his supplies, making a list of what he needed before taking a shower, and went back out. He could sense a couple of shinobi tailing him. Must be for security reasons, he thought. He picked up some medical supplies as he was running low after helping his people in Whirlpool Kingdom and some members of the Fuma clan. I'm just glad I started learning medical ninjutsu, or I would have run out of supplies a long time ago. He also picked up more kunai and shuriken. He was able to sneak into the place that produces Kumo's bingo books and got the latest edition. With that, he went back to his hotel and went to sleep. He decided to relax today before he left tomorrow, and after a quick breakfast he decided to explore the village. He found it to be a nice place. A bit quieter than Konoha, but it had a peaceful sensation to it. He was walking down a road when his eyes caught sight of a kunoichi heading his way. She was beautiful with blonde hair tied in a braid that went to her mid-back and black eyes. Her s were easily D-cup with long legs attached to a firm. She started eyeing him as well. When they passed each other, time seemed to slow down, then she continued on. What was that? I could sense something from her, he thought. I felt something too, Naru-kun, and I believe that was the container for the Nibi no Bakeneko, Kyuubi replied. Naruto's eyes widened and turned around, but she was already gone. Damn. She was right next to me and I didn't even get to say a simple hello, he thought inside. Don't worry, Naru-kun. I'm sure you two will meet again. Her container is strong, Kyuubi replied and gave Naruto a mental kiss on the lips which had him smile. Arigato koishi, Naruto thought. Anytime koi, Kyuubi replied. Naruto decided to spend a couple hours at one of Kumo's famous onsens before heading back to the hotel. He paid the clerk and entered the room for the males and declothed, then wrapped a towel around him before heading to the water. He decided to drop his henge for now. When he entered, he noticed two other people there. Both were dark-skinned and had white hair and were obviously shinobi. The younger of the two looked to be about 5 years older than him. But it was the other guy that had his attention and Kyuubi's. He had a tattoo on his left shoulder that said, Iron, and a tattoo on his left cheek that resembled a bull's horn. He also gave Naruto the same feeling Fu in the container for the Nibi gave him. Kyuheim, what are the chances that we meet two other Jinchuriki in the same day? Naruto asked. I don't know, but he is definitely a Jinchuriki. From what I can sense, I'd say he contains the Hachibi no Kyogyu, she replied. Naruto gave her a nod and continued into the water. While Naruto was eyeing the two and talking to Kyuubi, the ones he was eyeing were eyeing him. Yo Hachi, do you sense what I'm a Senzen killer? Be thought to Hachibi. Hi, I do, you buffoon. This child is powerful on his own and he contains the Kyuubi no Yoko as well, Hachibi replied. What do you think I should do? He replied seriously. Order Omoi to leave and speak to the boy. If he's in contact with Kyuubi, then he already knows about you, Hachibi responded. Killer B nodded his head toward Omoi, who nodded back and got up and left. Naruto watched the younger man leave, then turned his attention back to the older man who hadn't moved. Is it safe to talk here? Naruto asked. Hi, it's safe. Omoi will make sure no one will bother us. So I'm guessing you know of what you contain? Killer B asked. Hi, I've known since my 5th birthday about Kyuheim, Naruto replied. Killer B raised an eyebrow at the Heim before he asked, Heim. Naruto smirked before saying, well, she is one of the most beautiful women I have ever seen and I love her and she me, Naruto replied. He looked at the other Jinchuriki's face before saying, I'm guessing Hachibi never mentioned that they can take a human form. Killer B thought. Yo Hachi, is this true? Yes, was the simple answer. Killer Bee's left eye twitched before saying, "How come you never told me?" "You never asked," was his reply while holding in his laughter. Killer Bee just shook his head at his friend before looking back at the child saying, "My name's Karabi but people just call me Killer Bee." Naruto nodded. Uzumaki Naruto. By the way, earlier today I crossed paths with the Nibi container while exploring the village, but she was already gone before I realized who she was. You wouldn't know her name by chance, would you? Killer Bee nodded. Hi, I do. Her name is Niyugito, one of our best kunoichi if not the best. Naruto nodded his head in thanks. After a few minutes of silence, Killer Bee spoke up. So what are you doing in Kumo, if I may ask? Naruto opened one eye looking at him, stocking up on supplies before I head out to begin training on my lightning manipulation and continue on my others. Killer Bee's curiosity was picked up when he mentioned his lightning affinity but was shocked when he mentioned others. Others? How many do you have? I only have one, which happens to be lightning. Naruto hesitated before replying, 7. Killer Bee was shocked and confused before saying, 7. There are only 5 main elements and, he was cut off by Hachibi's gasp. What's the matter, Hachi? This child speaks the truth. There are actually 7 main elements, but the last 2 were only wielded by one other human. The Rakudo Sennin. Those elements were light and dark. If he truly does possess those elements, then he has the potential to be the greatest shinobi to have ever lived. Killer Bee got over his shock before replying, well damn. How do you have affinities to the other elements anyways? One of my bloodlines, replied Naruto. Bloodlines? As in more than one? I don't think I've ever heard of anyone with more than one bloodline. Naruto looked at Killer Bee and said, I have 3. 2 from my parents and the 3rd I got after Shinigami altered the seal to prevent me from dying on my 5th birthday. Now Killer Bee and Hachibi were shocked again. Shinigami? As in the Shinigami? Naruto nodded his head and told him about his past. How the villagers treated him in the meeting of Kyuubi, his parents and Shinigami. Killer Bee and Hachibi laughed hard when he mentioned he called the Shinigami, Shinigiji. He also mentioned his plan for the other Jinchuriki. Killer Bee told Naruto that before he left he'd give some instructions to help him with his lightning manipulation. Before he left, Naruto asked for a sample of his blood to add to the seal protecting the royal palace and said that if he ever needed some place to hide or rest to stay there. Killer Bee gave his thanks and his instructions to Naruto and watched as he left Kumo. He's going to change this world for the better, Killer Bee thought, then added, then I can share my music with the world. Hachibi just shook his head at his crazy friend of a container. When he turned around, he spotted his 3 students watching him. The big-eyed blonde student of his spoke, Sensei, who was that? Killer Bee took a look behind him before looking back at his students. That my students was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko and the one who will become the strongest shinobi who has ever lived and change this world for the better. If you ever fight him, run away or surrender, as you have no hope against him. With that, he walked past the stunned faces of his students, thinking of his next song while bugging the crap out of Hachibi. Naruto spent 3 months traveling along the coast. He had finally mastered his water manipulation and wind manipulation. I can start working on combining them next, he thought excitedly. He also improved his chakra control with him using medical ninjutsu on the people in the villages he came across. By the time he left, he had cleared up the coast of bandits and missing nin, and word was already spreading about the protector of lightning country. Naruto made his way higher into the mountains. He came across the perfect spot for training but noticed a small cabin. He approached it and could sense someone in it. When he knocked, he heard someone approaching and opened the door. When he got to see who it was, he saw that it was a young, beautiful woman. Tu was preparing to make dinner when she heard a knock at her door. Who the hell could that be? She thought. When she approached the door, she could feel the power of the person on the other side of the door. She readied herself and opened the door, but was shocked to see a mini Yondaime Hokage. Can I help you? She asked. Naruto thought she looked familiar until he saw the loincloth around her hip. That's when he recalled where he saw her. It was in a picture of the 12 guardian ninja. But I thought they were all killed except Gigi's son when half of them planned a coup d'etat against the Hokage and the others fought them, he thought. He was brought out of his thoughts by her question. Yes, I am wondering if you would allow me to stay here in the area to practice my earth and lightning manipulations for a few months. Also, if you're trying to hide, you should make sure you aren't wearing that loincloth for all to see. 12 Guardian Ninja 2. I'm quite surprised to see you since I heard all you died except for Asuma a few years ago, he finished. 2 was intrigued by his request and at the affinities he mentioned but was shocked when he said her name. How do you know all this? She asked. I am quite close to the third Hokage and I spent a lot of time in his office when I was younger, and when he would run out for something I'd go snooping around, he finished with a chuckle. Who are you? She asked. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. King of Whirlpool. Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Son of Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yondaime Hokage, and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's Red Death and daughter of the former king and queen of Whirlpool Kingdom, he finished. 2 was left speechless as her mind tried to comprehend what was just told. Unfortunately, that didn't work out too well as she passed out. Naruto quickly caught her before she hit the floor and chuckled. Well, I guess I better put you down somewhere to rest, he said. He found her bedroom and laid her down on her bed and pulled the blankets over her. He walked back out and noticed she was starting dinner. He decided to finish as she rested. Roughly an hour later, 2 woke up to a smell that had her mouth salivating. She noticed she was tucked in her bed. He must have put me here after I fainted, she thought with a slight blush. She breathed a sigh of relief when she noticed the only thing missing from her body were her sandals. She put them back on and followed the delicious aroma. When she arrived, she saw him cooking dinner. She coughed, getting his attention. Naruto turned around and saw she was up. Finally up, I see. I decided to finish making dinner as I noticed I interrupted you. It'll be done in a couple minutes, so take a seat at the table and I'll be with you in a few. With that, he turned back around to check on the stew. 2 sat down and watched him work. Damn, he's powerful, a gentleman and cooks. Plus he's quite a looker already, and if he grows up to be a looker like his father, he'll be even more handsome, she thought. Then her eyes widened at what she thought and blushed. Wait a minute. What is the son of a Hokage doing way out here anyways? And if I remember correctly, he said he was the king of Whirlpool. Seems I have some things to talk about during dinner. She was shaken from her thoughts by the bowl of stew placed in front of her. She took a small taste of it before she dug in. Naruto chuckled at her antics before eating his. She calmed down and took a breath before saying, those things you told me, were they all true? Naruto nodded his head and said, yes. Everything I told you was the truth. 2 looked at him again and said, then what are you doing out here, and how can you be king when Whirlpool Kingdom was destroyed during the Third Great Shinobi World War? Naruto swallowed the stew in his mouth, then replied, as I mentioned earlier, I am here to continue my earth manipulation and start my lightning manipulation. As for how I am king, the first visited my kingdom before coming to this country and let my people know of my existence and my plans to rebuild my kingdom. I also have the sword of the king with me sealed in this seal on my wrist, he finished by showing her the seal. 2 said the first thing that came to her mind, damn. Naruto chuckled and said, yeah, I seem to be getting a lot of that recently. They finished dinner with more questions and she explained how she was saved when the Sandaime Hokage had sent reinforcements and med ninja to the battle and they were able to save her. She then explained how the fire daimyo allowed her to leave his service and she ended up here to further her training. She told him that he could stay here with her and she'd help with his training. So with the next 8 months, 2 had helped Naruto train. He managed to master his earth manipulation and with her help she put him at low Junin level for his lightning manipulation. She was shocked when he explained how he had affinities to all 7 main elements and his ability to use sub-elements. She was further shocked when he summoned a phoenix and a shadow clone. He told her he found the legendary Phoenix contract a while back and on his way to Lightning Country managed to become head of the Fuma clan while in Ricefield Country. Naruto had also told her the truth of Kyuubi's attack and how they came to love each other. Two for some reason was happy for them but also extremely sad. She realized she started developing feelings for him but didn't realize how strong they were. But then Naruto's 12th birthday came along and when he was celebrating it with one of the scrolls he stored in the seal popped out in front of him. What the hell? Q-chan, did you do that? Kyuubi shook her head and replied, no, it wasn't my doing, Naru-kun. Naruto opened the scroll with next to him to let her read it as well. To Naruto. If you are reading this then you are at least 12 years old. Because you are the last of the Uzumaki clan and the last of the Namikaze clan as well, there is a law in Konoha that applies to you. It is called the Clan Restoration Act or CRA for short. What this law does is allow the last male or males of a clan with a Kekkei Genkei to marry at least 20 women for each Kekkei Genkei to restore the clan. Your mother and I agreed to 3 political marriages for you before you were born. The first one was with Suna. If you were a boy then you were to marry Tamari, the Yondaime Kazecage's eldest child, who is 2 years older than you. If you were a girl then it would have been his eldest son Konkuro who is a year older than you and the other marriages would have been nullified. The second marriage is to the daughter of the priestess of Demon Country whose name is Shion. She is only a couple months younger than you. The final marriage is to Kazuhana Koyuki, daughter of the daimyo of Snow Country who is 3 years older than you. Now none of these are permanent so you don't have to go through with them. Marry only those that you love and those that love you back. Your loving parents. Namikaze Minato and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto and two were shocked while Kyuubi knew this was a possibility but wasn't upset. From what I've seen so far there are already other women who love him and he has a heart big enough for all of us, she thought. Naruto looked over at Tu and noticed she was crying. Tu-chan, are you but didn't get to finish as Tu tackled him and kissed him with all the passion she could manage. Naruto was shocked at first but returned the kiss. His tongue doing the same magic it did to Kyuubi. After 5 minutes they broke for air. He looked her in the eyes and saw she was smiling. I was so afraid that I'd never get to be with you. During these past months I've developed feelings for you. You're everything I could want. But when you said you and Kyuubi were in love it felt like my heart broke. I've never felt like this before and I know I love you, she explained. Naruto ran his right hand against her cheek and gave her a soft kiss on her lips. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I may be a genius at a lot of things but it seems I'm still pretty dense when it comes to women. To tell you the truth I've also fallen in love with you but I didn't want to hurt Q-chan. But now we can all be together, he finished and leaned up and captured her lips in another passionate kiss. Tu-ing as their tongues battled. Kyuubi watched on with a blush. After they broke apart she decided to tell Naruto a certain effect his third bloodline had on his mates. As Tu looked at Naruto she saw his face get redder and redder. What's the matter Naruto-kun? Naruto looked at her and said, Q-chan just informed me of a benefit my third bloodline has on women who I choose to mate with. Apparently they gain the same abilities I have with that bloodline. So if they're older than 25 then after I mark them their body reverts back to that of a 25-year-old and stay like that like me and gain my extended life as well as my healing abilities. If they're younger than 25 then they stop aging at 25 and gain my extended life as well as the healing abilities, he explained still blushing. Tu was amazed at that then asked, how do you mark them? Naruto blushed harder and said, I bite them on the shoulder and channel my chakra into them at the end of while we both orgasm at the same time. Now Tu was blushing with a bit of blood dripping from her nose. Naruto chuckled at her before saying, I'm still a bit too young for that but I promise I will mark you when we're both ready, then he kissed her nose making her giggle. Naruto spent the rest of the month with her getting closer before he left at the beginning of November. They were outside the cabin kissing. They broke apart still holding each other. Promise I'll see you again, she said. Naruto gave her a soft kiss and said, I promise you too, Chan, that we will spend the rest of our lives together. Come to Konoha the week before the Chunin exams in Konoha in 3 years. That is when I will reveal to the world who I am and we can be together. With that they kissed again with Naruto squeezing her, making her before he left, heading towards the capital of Lightning Country. As Naruto left traveling down the mountain, he spotted a lot of debris and scorch marks from the thunderstorm a week back. He spotted an entrance that lead into the mountain that wasn't there before. Why not? Nothing bad has happened yet venturing into dark places. Naruto felt like deja vu when he ventured into the cave containing the Phoenix contract. As he traveled further in, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Harem, is this for real? He thought. Kyuubi could not believe her koi's luck. Hi Naru-kun. That does indeed look like a dragon carved into the wall with a scroll in its mouth, she deadpanned. Naruto looked around and noticed an opening in the top of the cave. He came up with an idea. With a quick Kuchio's no jutsu, the boss of the Phoenix clan appeared. Fenikusu looked down at Naruto saying, What have you summoned me for, Naruto? Naruto looked at him before pointing behind him saying, That. Fenikusu looked behind him and was shocked before chuckling. Well, I'll be. Either you are extremely lucky or higher powers are helping you in your quest. Naruto looked at him. So is it possible to sign more than one contract? Hi, as long as the boss summons agree. If you manage to stumble across the other 2 legendary contracts, you need not worry, as the 4 great clans have been allies for centuries. Now if you intend to sign the contract, I'll stay, as it's been a while since I've seen my old friend. Naruto nodded before retrieving the contract and signed it as he did with the Phoenix contract, then yelled out Kuchio's no jutsu for the second time in less than an hour. When the smoke cleared, he was again awed by the creature. It was indeed a dragon. It had dark green skin with 2 large wings that it stretched out, almost reaching both sides of the cave before retracting them. It had 2 horns on its head and had spikes going down its back onto its tail. It looked around before spotting Naruto, then Fenikusu. Fenikusu, my old friend, what are you doing here? The Phoenix replied, I came to watch the summoner of our clan, see if he passed your test or not. The dragon looked down at the one who summoned him. Indeed, he is quite remarkable and an Uzumaki as well. I can sense the sword I gifted upon their clan long ago upon him. Very well. As with Fenikusu's test, if you fail, you will be killed to keep the secret of the location of the dragon contract secret. Do you agree? Naruto nodded and said, Hi, I agree. Then we shall begin. The test to see if you may wield the dragon contract is a test of wisdom. Without wisdom, power is useless. Let's see if you are worthy. And with that, the dragon breathed out smoke through its nostrils that surrounded Naruto. As with Fenikusu's test, he watched Naruto's life, so watched how he came up with solutions to problems in his life. He was happy to finally find a worthy summoner since the beginning of the contract. As the smoke dissipated, Naruto found himself standing before the 2 legendary bosses again. I am pleased to announce you, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, as the first summoner of the Dragon Clan. As long as you continue to use the wisdom you hold, you shall have the alliance of the Dragon Clan. Before I leave, let me introduce myself. I am Ryujin, boss of the Dragon Clan. Ryujin looked at Fenikusu. It seems we have found a worthy summoner after all these years, my old friend. Fenikusu looked back at the dragon. Indeed it does. I'm sure he will continue to bring honor to the Phoenix and Dragon clans. Congratulations, Naruto. Farewell for now. And with that, the Phoenix boss was gone. Naruto looked back at the dragon. Good luck, child. Also, since you have multiple summons when summoning, just think of the summon you want before your hand reaches the ground. Also, you can place summoning tattoos on your body. Just store chakra in them and swipe some blood across them while thinking of a specific summon of that clan. Each tattoo can hold enough chakra to summon either one of its legendary bosses 3 times before you need to recharge the seal. With a nod from Naruto, the boss of the dragon clan disappeared. Wow, I have 2 of the 4 legendary summon contracts, he said dazed. Kyuubi giggled at her lover. You are indeed one special person, Narukoi, she thought to herself. After that, Naruto headed north further into the country, coming across more bandits and a couple more missing nin, with one even being A class. He made it to the capital after a week. It was big like the other capitals of the 5 great shinobi countries he's been in and bustling with activity. He stopped at a restaurant for lunch that had samurai guarding the entrance. After he walked in, he saw why they were here and laughed at the irony. The daimyo and the others in the restaurant turned their heads when they heard laughter coming from the entrance to see a boy laughing. The daimyo spoke, "Excuse me, young man, but what do you find so funny?" Naruto settled himself before looking at him and said, "Forgive me, but it seems I have quite the luck in meeting powerful individuals. You see, I've met and befriended many other daimyos through my travels, and I met the daimyo of Earth Country at a restaurant as well." The daimyo rose an eyebrow at the boy. "How many have you met, if you don't mind me asking?" Naruto took on a thoughtful look. "Well, first there was Lord Nobunaga the Fire Lord and his wife Madame Shijimi, then Wind's daimyo, then the daimyos of Bird Country, Rain Country, Grass Country and Waterfall Country as I traveled through there. Earth's daimyo was next, then you," Naruto finished. The daimyo and everyone else was astonished who the young boy has met so far. "Well, that is indeed quite some luck you have there. If I may ask, what made you come to my country?" Naruto nodded and said, "I have been traveling the world for a few years now and came to Lightning Country to continue my training. By the way, you wouldn't know where I can go to collect the bounties on some missing nin I ran into on my way here." "Hi, I do. Why don't you join me for lunch and I'll walk you there after?" the daimyo said. "Sure, that works, but I hope you have enough cash on you because I have quite the appetite," Naruto said. The daimyo just nodded his head, not realizing the trouble he just entered. After an hour and jaws on the floor from everybody except the owner, who was in the back swimming in his small fortune, Naruto, the daimyo and his guards left. Like promised, he brought him to the office for collecting bounties on missing nin, and he along with everyone else was shocked when one of the nins was A class. Naruto just ignored their looks before collecting his money and left with the daimyo following him. "So, child, what do you plan on doing now?" Naruto looked up at the man and said, "Stay in the capital a week and look around, then leave for Water Country. You do realize that traveling there is quite dangerous, as there has been no contact with that country since the civil war broke out?" The daimyo asked. "Hi, I do, but I'll keep my guard up," Naruto replied, then added, "You wouldn't know where any good hotels are, would you?" The daimyo thought for a moment before saying, "Hi, but why don't you stay at the palace? That way we can talk more in private, as you still haven't given me your name." Naruto agreed and he followed the daimyo to his home. Naruto spent the week traveling around the capital with the daimyo. The daimyo learned that this was the person that the people were calling the protector of Lightning Country. Naruto learned about his views and ideals of the world as well. It seemed that the daimyos didn't have as much hate toward other ninja villages that others had. After finding him trustworthy, Naruto asked to speak to the daimyo in a private place, and after putting up a privacy jutsu, he told everything that he told the other 2 daimyos of the 5 great shinobi countries. He was shocked like all the others he told. Luckily, Naruto was told the Sandaime Raikage that ordered the mission to capture the Byakugan had been replaced and executed after the mission ended up in failure and Kumo ended with a trade embargo for 3 years. The new Yondaime Raikage, a man by the name of E, was in fact the older brother of Killer B. Naruto left the capital at the end of the week and after a week of searching found a ship departing for Water Country. It was the beginning of the 4th week of November when Naruto left Lightning Country for Water Country. He could have just used one of his summons but didn't want to take the chance that he'd be spotted. The captain of the ship he was on told him he thought he was crazy to want to go to that country and during the winter season as well, but mentioned it would take about 3 days until they reached port. During the voyage, Naruto went over his skills. He and Kyuubi put him overall at cage level, but he knew he needed to be stronger than a cage if he wanted to defeat his enemies and protect his precious people. His ninjutsu was easily cage level. He had mastered his futon, suiten, doden and kaden manipulations and was close to mastering his raiden manipulation. He knew at least 30 jutsu for each one so far. With help from his Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he was even able to master each jutsu C rank and lower, with a few B ranks so far, to the point he could perform them without hand seals or even saying the name out loud, which he thought was a good idea since ninja are supposed to be quiet and stealthy, not yelling out a technique giving a chance for your enemy to counter your attack. He planned to start working on his Hyoten and Mokuden manipulations when he arrived in Water Country, as well as his light element with help from the phoenixes. His taijutsu was high Junin level, with him almost mastering both his parents' styles. His father's style was called Maucho, Bird of Prey. This style has you using quick strikes on multiple targets to various points on the enemy's body to either disable them or use for a quick kill. His mother's style was called Hiryu, Flying Dragon. With this style the user delivers fast strong blows attempting to break bones on single or low number of enemies. He was also quite proficient in Goken as well, the style used by Maeda-gai, Konoha's taijutsu specialist. His kenjutsu was high Junin as well. His skill with his kodachis and dragon sword was on par with the Kiri no Shinobugatana Nananan Shu, 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He had started using his elemental chakra in the dragon sword with the lost legendary sword style. Kyuubi taught him the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu and was pleased with the results. His genjutsu was low Junin, and while his worst subject he was still pleased with it. He could dispel any low to mid and most high-ranking techniques and cast a few C rank and higher. He was especially pleased with his knowledge of Fuinjutsu. He could confidently say he was a seal master when he managed to finish his latest project. Apparently after Orochimaru left Konoha he left behind some various research papers, and one of them was his curse seal. His father had just started making headway on getting rid of the seal before Kyuubi appeared but wasn't able to finish it. But after 6 months Naruto was finally able to find a way to get rid of it. Of course the only way to know if it works is to use it on someone who has the curse seal, but he was confident it would work. He currently had his chakra weights set to 900 pounds on each of his limbs and 950 pounds on his waist. His speed and strength were mid-Junin with the weights on, but easily cage level if he took off his weights. When he maxed them out at 1000 pounds he plans on using gravity seals. Although the thing he was the most proud of was his chakra control. He was finally able to create one Bunshin no Jutsu, and considering he has already absorbed 5 tails worth of chakra and each tail is equal to 2 cage level chakra reserves, he had every right to be happy. They arrived at a port along the northern borders of the country at night on the 3rd day. Naruto paid the captain plus a little bonus and left to look for a place to stay for the night. The town the port was in looked like it had seen better days, but he was able to find a room at a small hotel. Naruto decided to spend the rest of the month in town, then leave the beginning of December. After Naruto woke up he left the town, and when he was sure it was safe summoned 2000 shadow clones and had them henge and travel the country for information and places to train. With that he summoned 200 more clones to continue practicing his Raiden manipulation while he went through some hand seals, bit his thumb and slammed his hand on the ground and uttered a quiet Kuchio's no Jutsu. When the smoke disappeared he was greeted with one of the older phoenixes of the clan. It was about half the size of Fenikusu. It looked around for a few seconds at its surroundings before settling on Naruto. Naruto-sama, what is it you require of me? Naruto looked at the phoenix. It looked like a miniature version of Fenikusu. Before we start, may I ask your name? The phoenix nodded and said, of course. My name is Asasha, Morning Sun. I am the eldest child of Fenikusu. Naruto nodded. Well, that would explain why you look like a miniature version of him. Anyways, I was wondering if you could help me with my light element, as I was told each phoenix who has reached maturity has this element. Asasha replied, Of course I would be honored to help you. First of all, do you know anything about the light element? Naruto shook his head. The light element has many uses. It can be used for healing. It is especially effective against demons and can be used as offensive jutsu as well as defensive jutsu. As with the dark element, to use the light element requires great chakra reserves, control and concentration. Naruto nodded, awed by the power of this element. Asasha taught him low-level techniques dealing with each use of the light element. Before he left a scroll for Naruto with techniques up to C rank and told him to summon him or any of his brethren for help. Naruto thanked the phoenix and watched as it disappeared back to the summon world. Naruto continued to practice till nightfall while he received memories of his clones. Apparently some of his clones decided to have a little race and dropped their weights to 0. He learned he could travel across the country in one day, and he learned some interesting things as well about the country. Apparently Kurigakure no Sato's forces were split in two. One side under the command of the Yondaime Mizukage, who he wasn't able to get the identity of, and then there were the rebels under the command of a woman who he wasn't able to identify either. He learned that it started when the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nanananshu attempted to assassinate the Yondaime Mizukage. Each of them managed to survive, but they split up after the failed attempt, and for some reason none of them joined the rebels. If I managed to get them to serve me, it would prove quite beneficial, he thought. He also found some good spots to practice his Hyoten and Mokuten elements. The young king left the town on the first day of December and did his usual routine on the first of every month of summoning a clone and phoenix to head to Rice Field Country to collect any information the Fuma clan might have. After watching they go, Naruto continued further into Water Country to the closest spot his clones found for training. When he arrived, he was greeted by the very same scene his clone saw. In fact, it looked a lot of what he saw when he was in the seal with Kyuubi. There was a small waterfall that he could use for his Hyoten manipulation as well as his Mokuten manipulation. There was even a small cave he could stay in to keep warm not too far from here. He decided to make camp in the cave and start training in the morning. Naruto woke up at first light and headed back to the waterfall. Alright, to use the sub-elements I need to combine the correct elements evenly, he said out loud. Wish me luck, Koishi, he thought. You don't need it, but good luck, Naru Koi, Kyuubi replied. So for the next 3 months Naruto worked on his Hyoten, Mokuten and light manipulations. He was able to get the Hyoten and Mokuten elements to mid-chunin and learned jutsu like Hyoten, Sabama Fubuki and Moku Bunshin no Jutsu. With help from the phoenixes he was able to get his light manipulation to low junin and learned more powerful healing techniques as well as others. It was the middle of February when he ran into, more like ambushed, 4 nins. 3 of them had Kiri Hittites that had slashes across them. One was a female that was trying to hide themselves as a male that appeared a year older than him. 2 looked to be brothers, but it was the other person that had his attention, or rather what he was carrying. It was the legendary Kubikiri Hako, which meant that this person must be Momochi Zabuza, the Kurigakure no Kijin, demon of the hidden mist. Naruto eyed each one carefully. He could tell the brothers worked as a team by their stance and what they were carrying. Zabuza he knew would be the toughest opponent here, but it was the girl that was making him cautious. He could tell she was around mid-chunin level, but that was it. He decided to break the silence. What can I do for you? Zabuza spoke up. You can hand over your belongings, Gaki, or you can die, then we take what we want, he said with a smirk. Do you really believe you can beat me, Momochi Zabuza? You are at best Anbu level, and compared to me that is nothing, Naruto said, then started releasing his chakra. The moment he did, all 4 of them fell to their hands and knees. He let go and spoke again. But I will make a deal. You and I shall fight a swordsman duel. If you win, I will serve you and hand over everything I own. If I win, you and your followers will serve me and obey my every command. Do you accept? Zabuza was shocked at the power of this kid. He thought he was just some wannabe playing ninja. He was even more shocked at the deal this kid made. Zabuza looked at his subordinates before turning back to the child. Hi, I agree to the duel. Naruto smiled and said, good. No ninjutsu will be allowed. This is a battle of the blade only. Tell your comrades to back up and not to interfere. Zabuza nodded his head. You heard him. Back away and do not interfere whatsoever. They nodded their heads and leapt away. Zabuza lifted Kubikiri Hako from his back and got into a stance. He assumed his opponent was going to use the Kodachi strapped to his waist but lifted an eyebrow when he saw him lift his left hand. I am sure you thought I would be using the Kodachi strapped to the back of my waist, but for a master swordsman such as yourself I believe you deserve the honor of fighting against this. And with that Naruto summoned chakra to the seal on his wrist and summoned the sword of the king, the dragon sword. Zabuza stopped breathing when he saw the sword. Can't be. That sword. I thought they were all killed. He gulped, filling his lungs with air again. Why you? Who are you? Naruto was smirking when he saw Zabuza's reaction. He knew a swordsman of his caliber would recognize this sword. I will tell you my name at the end of our duel. Zabuza simply nodded before straightening himself, then charging. Naruto charged as well and their swords clashed between them. Amazing. He's not even struggling against my strength, Zabuza thought. They jumped back and continued the battle. Zabuza swung his sword from the side and Naruto parried it with his own before he swung his down, with Zabuza twisting out of the way. Naruto jumped up when Zabuza swung his sword as he twisted. They continued on for 15 minutes with Zabuza looking moderately tired and sweating, but Naruto was only sweating a bit. The Gaki's got insane stamina and skills. But that style he's using, I've never seen anything like it, and I think that damn brat is holding back, Zabuza thought. Naruto noticed their state of condition as well. One last go, Zabuza. Hi, he replied. With that they charged one last time. Zabuza brought down his sword while Naruto brought his sword down low and started charging lightning chakra through it. When they crashed, Zabuza was literally stunned as his body was filled with lightning. He dropped his sword and fell down. The other three that were watching were amazed at how easily Zabuza lost. They ran over to him and were about to touch him when a voice stopped them. Don't do that. He'll be fine in a few minutes. A bit twitchy for a while but fine, Naruto said. They nodded and waited. After about 5 minutes Zabuza started to move around. He was helped to a tree that he leaned against and looked at the person who beat him. What the hell was that? I thought you said no ninjutsu. Naruto looked at him in the eye and said, I didn't use ninjutsu. I used my sword's special ability that lets me channel my elemental chakra through it. Zabuza looked at him thinking, it's true. Only one sword was able to do that and it looked exactly like the one he used. You are an Uzumaki, aren't you? That is the only way you would be able to use that sword, he said. Naruto nodded and replied, yes, I am an Uzumaki. My mother was Uzumaki Kushina, daughter of the former king and queen of Whirlpool Kingdom. Zabuza nodded, going over the information, then said, if I recall only the king may wield that sword, and since you said former king I'm guessing you've become the new king. Naruto nodded, that would be correct. I plan to rebuild my kingdom and I've already started with my plans. Now on to our arrangement. Do you pledge your allegiance to me and do the rest of you as well? You three will no longer be serving Zabuza but me. I will let you stay with him though for the next 3 years, as I will be busy and will be traveling alone till then. It's been every swordsman's dream to serve the Uzumaki family, as they have been the best swordsmen that have ever lived, Zabuza thought. I pledge my allegiance and loyalty to you, my king, Zabuza said, then shocked his 3 comrades when he got on one knee and bowed. The others looked at each other before doing the same as their former leader and got on one knee and bowed. Naruto smiled. Great. Now get up and introduce yourselves. I am Guzu, twin brother of Maizu. We are known as the Demon Brothers and are former Chunin of Kurigakure. Naruto nodded his head and looked at the next one. I am Maizu, twin brother of Guzu. We specialize in coordination attacks and work well as a team. Naruto nodded again and looked at the last member. My name is Haku. I am a boy of 13 inches. She was cut off by Naruto. Do not lie to me. I know you are a girl and I understand your reasons for hiding yourself, but you do not need to in the presence of friends. Haku was shocked that he could tell she was a girl. How? She asked. I have a very advanced ability to detect smells, and males and females give off different smells, he explained. She nodded at that and restarted. My name is Haku. I am a girl and 13 years old. I have been with Zabuza for 5 years now after he saved me after she hesitated for a moment but continued, activated my bloodline. My father killed my mother when he found out I got it from her, then he tried to kill me. I killed him and the others with him with my bloodline. She looked down afraid of what she would see in his eyes and was startled when she felt herself being hugged. It's okay, Haku-chan. I don't think any less of you. You were in a situation that nobody should have to be in, let alone a child, Naruto said as he continued to comfort the crying girl by rocking her back and forth and running his hand through her hair. After a few minutes she calmed down and was blushing up a storm when he pulled back. He just smiled at her and winked, which made her blush harder. Zabuza was twitching. What does he think he's doing with my tool, he thought. Naruto noticed this, which was why he winked at Haku and nearly laughed out loud at the look on Zabuza's face. Haku broke them from their thoughts. Excuse me, my king, but you still haven't told me your name. Naruto blushed at that, which Haku thought was extremely cute. Ah yes, excuse my manners. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Son of Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yellow Flash and Yondaime Hokage, and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's Red Death and Royal Princess of Whirlpool Kingdom. Current King of Whirlpool and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, he finished. He saw the shocked look on their faces. Ah, I do indeed love saying that, he mentally chuckled. Haku was the first to recover and said, wow. The others could only nod their agreement with her statement before Zabuza spoke up. Wait, Jinchuriki. As in you have a demon sealed inside you. And the Kyuubi no Yoko to be precise. Naruto nodded. That would be correct. Although the demons are not as evil as everyone makes them out to be. I'd say humans are more evil than demons could ever be. Hell, if it weren't for demons 90% of the world's bloodlines wouldn't even exist, he finished his rant. What? They all said. Naruto sighed and told them how bloodlines came to be and how humans got greedy with power and eventually the demons left this world back to their own. They were shocked when he told them how the Sharingan came to be, and Zabuza and the other males laughed and Haku giggled, which Naruto thought was extremely cute when he told them where the Byakugan came from. They were shocked and Haku cried and hugged him when he told them of his life all the way up to now. So what do you want us to do now? Zabuza asked as he watched Naruto still holding Haku running his hand through her hair. If Konoha has a law like the one in Kiri, then Haku might be able to join him. Naruto thought while enjoying having Haku in his arms and said, we'll travel together for the next month and train together. Haku-chan can further help me with my Hyoten abilities and I can help you four in areas you are lacking in. After that I want you four to search for the other 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and bring them to me. Tell them I will offer the same deal I made Zabuza, and also it gives them a chance in a lifetime to fight against the dragon sword. I want to make you 7 into the Knights of Whirlpool, where you will be my generals and highest ranking officers just below the royal family. Zabuza and the others were shocked, although Haku not as much, as she was comfortable in Naruto's lap with his hand running through her hair. The group stayed together until the end of March. Zabuza had told him that the Yondaime Mizukage was in fact another Jinchuriki by the name of Yagura, and before he became Mizukage they used to be friends, and when he learned that the others were planning on assassinating the Mizukage, it was the hardest thing he ever had to do. He informed him that he contained the Sanbi no Kyodai. When Kyuubi learned of this, she knew something was wrong, as the 3-tailed turtle was the wisest and most peaceful of the Biju and would never let its container willfully do what he's done. When Naruto asked if Yagura has always acted like this, Zabuza said no. The reason he was chosen for Mizukage was because he used to be peaceful but still would harm those he deemed a threat. Zabuza also informed him that the leader of the rebels was in fact a young woman in her early 20s. Even though she was young, she was still more powerful than Zabuza. Her name was Rose. Apparently Zabuza thought that fit her very well. Naruto had an idea at what he meant but left it at that. Also, like Kumo and Iwa, Kiri had two Jinchuriki as well. They also had the Rokubi no Namakuji, six-tailed slug, in a container named Utakata that was fighting for the rebels. Naruto had mentioned about the CRA in Konoha when Zabuza asked if they had anything similar to the one Kiri had. Haku perked up at the mention of it, and when he replied they did and the number of girls he was allowed to marry in Konoha alone, she blushed the whole day and would have small nosebleeds when she looked at him, while Zabuza and the brothers were grumbling about, lucky blonde-haired bastards. Haku was amazed, proud and a bit jealous at how fast Naruto was coming along with his Hyoten manipulation. He helped her with her water and wind manipulations as well and taught her a few more jutsu. For Zabuza they improved their kenjutsu by dueling a lot and taught him a few Suiten jutsu. For the brothers he helped increase their speed and observe their surroundings when using genjutsu. When the day came for the group to leave and look for the others, they bid goodbye, but Naruto surprised them when he spun Haku around and kissed her on the lips. He ate her lips, making her part them, and he moved his tongue into her mouth. His tongue explored her mouth and got her tongue in the action. She started ing and Naruto slid his hands down to her, giving it a squeeze, making her louder. After 5 minutes they broke apart. He chuckled at the glazed look on her face. He leaned in next to her ear and whispered, "There'll be more of that when we see each other again, Haku Haim," he huskily said. She shivered before placing a quick kiss on his lips before turning around, ignoring the looks on the others. Zabuza snapped out of his daze when Haku walked by him. He watched her, then quickly turned around only to see Naruto gone. His face quickly turned red before yelling, "Damn you, Naruto! What the hell were you thinking kissing my daughter?" He heard a gasp and turned around to see a teary-eyed Haku and quickly realized what he said. He chuckled nervously before walking past her. Haku smiled and gave him a hug as she followed him. Life sure will be more interesting with Naruto-sama around, won't it, brother? Guzu said. "Indeed it will, brother. Indeed it will," Maizu replied. Naruto chuckled as he heard Zabuza's yell. He sat down in a safe place before summoning a few clones to guard the area and entered his mindscape. He found Kyubi on the shore by the pond in a bathing suit that barely covered her ass and vagina. He took off his clothes except his boxers and walked up to her and lay down on top of her and started making out with her. Kyubi ed and smiled into the kiss. "Love you too, Koishi," she said. They lay there together in each other's arms for the rest of the day. It would be 3 months until Zabuza came back. During those months Naruto had mastered his Raiden manipulation and gotten his Mokuton and Hyoten to mid-Junin level. He was also close to mastering his light element. He knew he wouldn't be as far as he was if it wasn't for the phoenixes helping him. When Zabuza arrived, it was with a much bigger entourage than before. He could see 6 people with him but could sense 7. He quirked an eyebrow before looking around. He finally found it and concluded it was the thing on the back on the individual wielding the Rai Roga. That must be Kurosuke Raiga, but who is on his back? Naruto thought. "Who is the person on your back?" Naruto asked. Raiga was astounded that this kid could sense Renmara. Raiga slowly lifted the basket from his back and placed it down. When he opened it, Naruto could see a child in it. "His name is Renmara. I found him in a village living by himself after we defected from Kiri. He has a Kekkei Genkei that gives him the ability to see through walls, cause illusions, and interfere with even the Byakugan. Unfortunately his body is weak and he can barely move on his own." Naruto looked at the child who was staring at him before Naruto smiled at him. "Very well, after we are done with our duels I will see what I can do to heal him," he finished. Renmara spoke for the first time. "How? Many have tried and all have failed. What can you do that they can't?" Naruto continued smiling at him. I have the ability to do things that haven't been seen since the Rakuto Sennin. I have gained what he used to heal the people of his time that would have lived a life of suffering or died. Naruto looked at the others. Each had a sword signifying that they were a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. There was of course Kurosuke Raiga, wielder of the Rai Roga lightning fangs, and known as Kurigakure no Raijin, thunder of the hidden mist, Hoshigaki Kisame, wielder of Samahata and known as Kurigakure no Kaijin, scourge of the hidden mist, Ringo Roshi, Pipochi, Gurpushi and finally Deidai Shiba. As with Zabuza I am offering each of you a duel. If you win everything I own will be yours. However if I win you pledge your allegiance and loyalty to me. If I beat all of you I will tell you what I have planned for all of you. Same rules as before. No ninjutsu as this is a battle of the blade. I will even allow you to partner up if you wish. I will not let any of you partner up with Renmara. Naruto finished and chuckled at Raiga's frown. He noticed 4 of them had paired up. His first challengers were Roshi and Pochi. Their teamwork was astounding but they were quickly defeated. His next challengers were Shi and Shiba. As with Roshi and Pashi their teamwork was excellent and he almost got cut a couple times but with a few elemental enhanced swings they were defeated. Raiga was next. He was quite fast. Easily Anbu level but his swordsmanship was the worst of the 7. His last opponent and the strongest of the 7 was Kisame. He was bordering Kage level and Naruto knew this would be his toughest fight so far. Not bad brat. You defeated 6 of us so far but now you have to fight the strongest of us. Let's see what you got. And with that he tossed Samahata over his shoulder and the wrappings came apart. I need to be careful. If I get hit by that it'll be a bitch, thought Naruto. Naruto raised the dragon sword and the two charged each other. Using elemental chakra will be useless on him, Naruto thought as he dodged a swipe aimed for his head. Naruto flipped over Kisame and managed to cut his back. Kisame gave a grunt at the pain but shook it off. He swung around him and was blocked by Naruto's sword and kicked him in the stomach making him fly back. Naruto flipped in midair and landed on his feet only to dodge to the left when Samahata came down right in front of him. He got up and got into a stance that Zabuza recognized, so he's finally getting serious. Kisame eyed the stance. I've never seen a stance like that before. Naruto dropped his weights to 0 and charged forward and yelled out Kuzu Ryuzan, 9-headed dragon strike. Shit. Kisame thought. Naruto was too fast for him to block. Hell he couldn't even see him but he could feel each hit. After 9 hits Naruto reappeared behind Kisame and turned around to watch Kisame fall. The others were stupefied at what they are more specifically what they didn't witness. They didn't even see him attacking. They only saw Kisame's body twitch every couple seconds. We didn't even stand a chance, they all thought. Naruto took a breath and walked over to Kisame. With a quick activation of the mystical palm technique they watched as Naruto's hands started glowing green and healing Kisame's injuries. Is this what he plans to use to heal me? Thought Renmara fascinated by the technique. After 10 minutes Naruto stopped and backed up. He watched as Kisame slowly opened his eyes then groaned. He looked at Naruto and said, "What the hell was that move you used on me? I've never seen it before. The speeds you moved at were incredible. You haven't seen it because it hasn't been used in centuries. The name of the move is called Kuzu Ryuzan. It is a technique from the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu style." When Naruto said that the other 6 members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist eyes widened. How do you know that style? The hidden Mitsurugi Ryu style has been lost. How could you possibly know it? Kisame questioned, demanded. It helps that my sensei was alive during the time it was used and managed to master it, Naruto replied. Who is your sensei? Kisame asked. Kyuubi no Yoko, Naruto answered. Kisame and the others except Zabuza's group eyes widened for a second time. Kisame slowly put it together and said, "You are a Jinchuriki aren't you?" "Yes I am," Naruto replied. Then suddenly Kisame started laughing out loud which confused and scared the others. "Oh man this is good. I'm glad Zabuza found me when he did, or else I'd be dead. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, how so? A week before Zabuza and the others found me, I was approached by Uchiha Itachi. He claimed he represented an organization called Akatsuki that his master started and that they were looking for members. I asked him what this organization wanted, and he only told me they were interested in capturing the Biju and therefore the Jinchuriki. He didn't tell me why he wanted them, but anyone wanting that kind of power can't be good. He told me to meet him in River Country in 2 months if I accepted. Kisame finished. Naruto listened to the information carefully. The only person Itachi would call master would be Madara, and if he knows of Madara, then he probably knows of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. That would explain the rumors of why he left his brother Sasuke alive. Since Madara is involved in this organization, that proves he's up to no good. He sighed, catching their attention. Well, if you plan to keep to your deal and pledge your allegiance and loyalty to me, then you won't be joining them, and I believe I have a good idea at who Itachi's master is, and if I'm right, then the entire elemental nations is in trouble. Anyone who joins them I will kill if they do not surrender. The look in his eyes and the tone in his voice made them all shiver, knowing he was serious. I swear my allegiance and loyalty to you, my king, Kisame stated, taking a knee and bowing his head. Naruto looked at the others and they quickly followed suit. He looked over at Haku and gave her a wink and a smirk to Zabuza and the others. She smiled back at him, and Zabuza and the brothers smirked back, each moving to stand next to Naruto to get a good look at their faces. Good. Now that that's finished, it's time for me to tell you who I am. As you know already, I am an Uzumaki, but I am so much more. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. I am king of Whirlpool and the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. I am the son of Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yellow Flash, and Yondaime Hokage, and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's Red Death and daughter of the former king and queen of Whirlpool. He finished taking out a camera from nowhere and took a quick few shots. He put it away just as quick and looked at their faces. Haku and the others were barely standing up. Haku from blushing since Naruto had grabbed her hand during the speech and her giggling at their faces. Zabuza and the others had enough and fell on the ground, their sides hurting from all their laughing. Kisame summed up the others' minds when he muttered, "Damn," and with that Haku burst out laughing in Naruto's arms. When everyone settled down, Naruto held Haku in front of him with her back against his chest and his hands around her waist. Even though she was a year older, he was still taller and was able to let his head rest on her head. He kissed her cheek and let go of her and walked over to Renmara. Are you ready? I can't promise you that I can heal you, but I will give everything I have. Renmara looked him in his eyes and nodded his head. Naruto laid out some futons and picked up Renmara and laid him down on them. Naruto activated a quick diagnostic jutsu and ran his hands along Renmara's body. His body is simply too weak. Maybe the Sannin Tsunade could think of something with regular med jutsu, but there is something I can do. Naruto looked back at Renmara. The technique I used on Kisame won't work on you. I'm not as knowledgeable about the human body, and there is only one person I can think of that could heal you with the type of med jutsu I was using. However, remember I told you that I have the ability to use the same techniques the Rakudo Sennin used to heal people. I can use those, but I have never used it on somebody as weakened as you. I'd give yourself a 75% chance of this working, but if it doesn't, you could die. If you choose to go through with this, you'll be able to walk, run, swim, and so many other great things. The choice is up to you. Renmara just laid there not moving for a few minutes, then turned back to Naruto. I want to do it. I want to be able to walk and run. I don't want to be a burden on Raiga anymore. Naruto nodded and had everyone else step back. He went through 30 hand seals and called out Ranpu, Seisei Sosei, light, regeneration, rebirth. Everyone watched as instead of Naruto's hands glowing green, they turned completely white. You couldn't even see his hands. They noticed Naruto had his eyes closed, and the longer the jutsu lasted, more of Renmara's body was covered by the light. After 8 minutes Renmara was completely covered in the light when it started to fade away and Naruto fell back breathing hard. Haku ran up to him while Raiga ran over to Renmara. Don't worry, he'll be fine, Raiga. He just needs to rest for now as well as me. That jutsu took a lot out of me. Naruto said, still breathing hard. What was that? I've never heard of a light element before. Raiga asked as the others listened. Naruto looked at his subordinates. That's because besides me only one other human has had the ability to use this element. You see, there are actually 7 elements, not 5. The 2 that are not used today were used only once before me, and that person was the Rakudo Sennin. Those elements are light and dark. I have the dark element as well, but I have yet to start training with it. Shiba spoke next. If that's true, then how do you know how to use these elements? That's because one of my summoning contracts has the ability to use the light element. Naruto explained, which only led to more questions to the others. You have more than one summoning contract. I thought that was impossible. She spoke. No, if the summon bosses agree, then you can use both contracts, and technically you could use every single summoning contract in existence if they all agreed, but that's not very likely. Naruto explained to them. Geez, I feel like an academy teacher. Haku asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Nay, Naruto-kun, which summoning contracts do you have? Naruto smiled at her and pulled her towards him, getting an eep from her. He sat her in his lap, chuckling at her blushing face. Well, my dear Haku-chan, have you heard of the 4 legendary summoning contracts? She shook her head into his chest. These 4 contracts consist of the Phoenix Clan, Dragon Clan, Turtle Clan, and the Tiger Clan. These 4 clans created an alliance with each other long ago and are the strongest summons, with each boss equal in power. To summon even one of these bosses requires the equivalent of cage-level chakra reserves. Also, like with most other summons, you must pass a test given by the boss summon, and if you should fail, you will be killed to keep the location of the summoning contract safe. The 2 summoning contracts I have in my possession are the Phoenix and Dragon contracts. He heard her gasp and he looked down at her face with her eyes wide in amazement. He smiled at her and leaned down and kissed her forehead. He looked at the others and laughed mentally along with Kyuubi at their faces. They all prepared camp, with Naruto summoning some shadow clones and having them draw seals around the area for protection. He gathered them around the campfire with him sitting between Haku's legs with her hand running through his hair. I think it's time I inform the rest of you of why I want you to serve me. I want you 7 to become my Knights of Whirlpool. You 7 will be my top generals and my highest ranking officers just below the royal family. You will be tasked to guard the countryside and its borders. I plan to build forts in crucial parts of the kingdom, and each of you will be in charge of your own fort. We will train the people who volunteer for soldiers and teach them basic shinobi techniques as well. I never want my people to experience what they are experiencing right now. Through my travels, I've met several daimyos that have earned my trust, and I've theirs as well. 4 of them are the daimyos of fire, wind, earth, and lightning country. Each of them have agreed to help me when the time comes, which will be in Konoha in 3 years. I plan to return to Konoha to become a ninja, as one of my dreams is to become the best Hokage that village will ever see. I plan to enter the Chunin exams that will be in Konoha at the end of that year. That is when I shall reveal to the world of who I am. He looked around to each of their faces, with Haku still running her hand through his hair. Damn, those are some pretty big plans, but I'll be right there at your side. Besides, I like the sound of Kisame, Knight of Whirlpool, he finished with his shark-like grin. The others nodded their agreement as well. He was about to call it a night when Zabuza spoke up. Naruto Dono, Naruto is fine when among friends, Naruto interrupted. Zabuza nodded. About this group called Akatsuki. You mentioned you might know who their leader is and that they were a threat to the elemental nations. Naruto sighed and relaxed at Haku's soothing hands and Kyuubi's soothing words. He retold the story of how the bloodlines came into existence and how the Sharingan came into existence when some of Kyuubi's power was stolen. But this time he mentioned the side effects of a power that doesn't belong to you. He mentioned since Kyuubi was female, most of the serious side effects happened to the males. He told them how when using the Sharingan causes males to lose their sanity when it's first activated, and the more you use it the faster it deteriorates. He told them how to gain the Mangekyo Sharingan, and the side effect of the more you use this form the faster you lose the ability to see. And finally the last form, the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. He explained that with this form the user gains Kyuubi's immortality and eternal youth. This was how Madara was still alive and causing havoc today. When Naruto mentioned what the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan looked like, Kisame choked on the water he was drinking, which caught the attention of Naruto. That eye. I know I've seen that eye. I believe Madara was the Sandaime Mizukage. Nobody ever saw his face, but I saw one of his eyes once and it was exactly like you described. The other Kiri nins were shocked at this revelation. It's possible that he could have placed some type of high-level genjutsu on Yagura or done something else before he left. With Kiri's bloodlines gone, there are less people to get in his way. Naruto concluded. He felt Haku's hand stop running through his hair and he turned around to see Haku silently crying. He picked her up and sat her in his lap, holding her and letting her cry. That bastard will pay for all the pain he's caused, Naruto and the others thought. Naruto bid them good night and carried Haku into his tent where the two slept together through the night. The group traveled through water country practicing and improving their skills. It was the beginning of August when Naruto told them he wanted to see the leader of the rebels. Zabuza agreed and led Naruto and the others to the east side of the country. When they arrived, they appeared in front of a town that was being used as the headquarters for the rebels. The guards on duty were freaking out at what they were seeing. There in front of them was every member of the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananan Shu. One of the guards spoke up, "How can we help you?" Zabuza stepped forward. "We would like an audience with the leader of the rebels." The guard that spoke nodded and alerted the Anbu. "They will escort you to see her." Zabuza nodded and stepped back. The guards and Anbu were curious about that, and more so when a mini Yondaime Hokage walked forward and motioned for the group to follow. As they walked through the streets, they attracted a lot of attention. At first the people were shocked to see the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananan Shu together again, but when they noticed who was leading the group, more whispers broke out. The older ninja knew if the swordsmen were allowing this child to lead them, then he must be stronger than either of them, and the way he carried himself showed an experienced shinobi. When the younger ninja and civilians heard this, they were left speechless for a couple seconds till they started whispering again. Naruto ignored them all and continued forward. After a few minutes they arrived at what appeared to be a hotel. They followed the Anbu inside and spotted more shinobi and kunoichi inside. The Anbu lead them to a room that could fit a couple hundred people in it. There were maps of the country and locations of various villages and towns, and of course the location of Kurigakure no Sato. The Anbu motioned them to stop at the entrance as they watched him walk up to a young woman who Naruto assumed was the leader and watched as she looked at him and the others. She nodded her head and motioned for them to approach. She was intrigued when she saw Naruto walking ahead of the group, as she knew what that meant as well. As Naruto walked closer, he was eyeing her and the way she held herself. She was very beautiful in Naruto's opinion. Her hair, a russet red color, fell down to her mid-back and her eyes are jade green. She was wearing webbing as an inner layer, with a blue garment covering it. It was rather provocative, as much of her long legs, upper torso and DDS could be seen. As Naruto was looking her over, she was doing the same. The way he carries himself shows he has shinobi training, and since the others are letting him walk in front, he must be stronger than even Kisame. He's rather cute as well and looks like a mini Yondaime Hokage, she thought. When Naruto stopped in front of the desk, he looked her in her eyes, which earned him a few points, and spoke. "I am assuming you are Rose, the leader of the rebels." She nodded and said, "Hi, I am. What is your purpose for wishing to see me?" "I wish to help you in your fight against the Mizukage." With my joining, you will also get the help of my comrades behind me. I have information that could be very enlightening, and in exchange I want to fight the Mizukage alone, and I also wish to speak to the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi no Namakuji. Naruto spoke. Rose was intrigued by the offer and said, "You believe you can fight the Mizukage? You do realize he is a Kage for a reason?" Naruto nodded and said, "I do, but I also believe that someone is controlling him, and I believe I know who, and that is just a fraction of the information I am willing to give." Rose and the other rebel ninja were shocked at the accusation. She agreed and led them to some rooms to stay at. Before she left, Naruto grabbed her hand and told her to bring the Jinchuriki with her tonight to his room when he gives her the information. She nodded with a slight tinge to her cheeks and left. Later that night, Naruto and his group were waiting for Rose and the Jinchuriki to arrive. After a couple minutes, the door opened. She walked in first, followed by a young man wearing a blue robe revealing his chest with a scroll in his robe and a flute in his hand. "This is Utakata, the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi no Namakuji. Now I know of the names of the 7 swordsmen and the demon brothers, but you have not told me your name or the name of the girl," Rose said. "This young woman would be Haku, apprentice to Zabuza and one of the loves of my life. As for me, my name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, king of Whirlpool and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko," Naruto explained, getting a kiss from Haku. Rose and Utakata looked at him dumbfounded. "Could you say that again?" she asked. "Rather than tell you everything, I have developed a jutsu for such an occasion as this that will show you my life up to this point, if you will allow me to, of course," Naruto said. Rose nodded slowly and watched as he went through hand seals fast enough that she only caught a glimpse of a few. After the 15th hand seal, Naruto called out Ninpo, Mu Kanran Waza, ninja art, life viewing technique. Rose and the others all watched Naruto's life from the time Kyuubi was sealed into him to right before he activated the jutsu. All the guys were having nosebleeds at Kyuubi's human form and probably would have died if Naruto showed them their more intimate moments. Rose was shocked when she learned of how bloodlines came to be in the man named Uchiha Madara and everything he's done. After about 5 minutes, the jutsu was finished and they returned to the room. Naruto looked around and saw the look on their faces, looks of shock and rage on the guys' faces, and the tears coming from Haku and Rose. It was one thing to hear about it, but it was entirely different to see it. Naruto made a shadow clone and had it hug Haku while he went over to Rose and picked her up and set her in his lap, hugging her and whispering in her ear that it only made him a stronger person. When she calmed down, he kissed her forehead and chuckled at her blushing face that matched her hair. "Damn, I'd still probably make him mine even if I didn't know about the effects of his third bloodline. Besides, I'm only 9 years older than him, and that other woman, too, I believe her name was, is older than me," Rose thought, still in his lap, then blushed harder when she thought of how he transfers his bloodline to his mates. She came up with a naughty idea and grinded her hip into his and inwardly congratulated herself at his small and was shocked in what she felt. "Damn, if it's this big already, I can't wait until a few years when he takes me and I will make sure I'm part of his harem. I don't know if I'll last till then, but he will be my first and only man." She continued her thoughts and her face got redder and redder as the thoughts got dirtier and dirtier. She finally passed out when she thought of him, her and a lot of clones. Naruto was shocked when she grounded her hip into his but wasn't upset. He was inwardly laughing as he watched her facial features, thinking she was having pleasant thoughts, and couldn't help but laugh out loud when she passed out with blood dripping from her nose. He noticed Haku was asleep in his clone's arms as well, and it was already 10 p.m., so he had the guys leave the room. He laid Haku and Rose into his king-size bed and took off their clothes, leaving on their underwear. He had a small nosebleed at Rose's well-developed and matured body and Haku's body that was just starting to mature but was still impressive. She already had B-sized S for a 13-year-old. He stripped to his boxers and crawled up in between them. He smiled and kissed their foreheads as they instinctively cuddled up to him and went to sleep. Rose was the first to wake up. She felt her head lying on something comfortable and warm. She opened her eyes to find herself lying with Naruto with Haku on his other side. She lifted the blankets and let out a sigh of relief and disappointment to find their underwear still on. When she looked back up, she saw those amazing blue orbs looking at her with a smile on his face. He leaned over and kissed her. Wow, he's a great kisser, she thought and edged when his tongue found hers. They broke apart after hearing a whimper and turned to see Haku up with a pout on her face. He smiled at her and kissed her as well. They lay back down with their heads on his chest. After you passed out, I noticed that it was already 10 p.m. and since both you and Haku were out, I had the others leave the room, then laid you in bed. I took off your clothes down to your underwear and I did the same, and I would have to say that was one of the most comfortable sleeps I've had. He said. The girls nodded their heads in agreement and they lay down for a few more minutes before they had to get up. They spent the next couple months with Rose and the rebels. Naruto and Rose got a lot closer over the time, and Rose started seeing Haku as a little sister and Haku seeing her as a big sister, and Rose was already doing her most important job as a sibling and teasing her. The three of them went to bed every night together. Naruto and Rose also had a few spars during the months and the rebels were shocked at his power. He was able to beat her every time, but he was always a good sport about it and helped her improve. The people would often see Rose and Naruto, or Haku and Naruto, or all three of them walking through town. They were curious about this until Zabuza and Kisame got drunk one night and started telling everyone how it wasn't fair that Naruto got to have a harem because of his bloodlines. Needless to say, Naruto was pissed at them for letting that information slip, since more women kept hitting on him and the men were either praising his name or they'd give him the stink eye. But overall they started looking up to Naruto as their hero and were glad their leader found someone to love. There was an incident though that happened at the beginning of September. Flashback. He had sent his clone and a phoenix summon to gather any info the Fuma clan had. A few hours later he received startling news. Apparently Orochimaru sent his personal guards along with 3 genins and another woman with an interesting Kekkei Genkei to intimidate the Fuma clan and have been causing trouble in town. They challenged the head of the clan to a fight the next day, and if he didn't show up they'd destroy the town. He quickly informed the others of this, and after a quick kiss to both Haku and Rose he sped out of town, and once he was far enough he summoned his fastest dragon summon. Kamikaze, I need you to get me to Rice Field Country as fast as possible, Naruto said to the dragon. It was about a third the size of Ryujin and had blue skin and had an affinity to wind. As you wish, Naruto-sama, Kamikaze said. Naruto hopped on and they made their way toward Rice Field Country. After 5 hours they made it to the outskirts of the town that contained Fuma Alley. He looked back up at his summon. Thanks again, Kamikaze, he said. Don't mention it. See you later, Naruto-sama, Kamikaze said. That was one thing the summons wouldn't give up. They always added sama to his name no matter how much he objected, and just went with it. Naruto made his way through Fuma Alley, ignoring the looks he was receiving as he hadn't bothered to henge, and headed into Club Lie Down. He looked around and spotted his third in command. Koto-chan, he called out. Kotoheim was going over some paperwork when she heard a familiar voice call out, Koto-chan. She turned around and spotted him. She smiled and ran up to him, hugging him. Naruto-kun, it's you. It's really you. Where have you been? How'd you get here so fast? Naruto chuckled and put a finger on her lips, quieting her. She blushed and calmed down. He led her to a seat and pulled it out for her to sit down. She smiled and accepted the offer. He sat next to her and started, I've missed you as well, Koto-chan. I've been in water country for the past few months and that is where I came from. As for how I got here so fast, well, I used my fastest dragon summon and made it here in about 5 hours. Wait, dragon, I thought you had the Phoenix contract. She inquired. I have both, he stated. She looked at him in wonder and shook her head. This is Naruto-kun. He's the most amazing person I've met, so I shouldn't be surprised, she thought. Where's Hanzaki? He asked. He's in back helping some who've been injured, she stated. He nodded and got up and offered his hand to her, which she took and blushed as he held her hand even when they entered the back room. He smiled at her and gave her a kiss on the cheek, which surprised her, and summoned a few clones with a quick Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and had them heal. He motioned Hanzuki over and they followed him to his office. He closed the door and said, "Report." Hanzuki collected himself and said, "Approximately 2 weeks ago Orochimaru sent his personal guard called the Sound Four, and each member has a curse seal. Along with them he sent 3 genin and a woman with a Kekkei Genkei that uses crystals. The Sound Four consist of 3 males and 1 female and are probably mid-Junin level with their curse seals activated to level 2, and the woman is low Junin level. The genin consist of 2 males and 1 female." Naruto nodded at the information. "Doesn't sound like they stand a chance against me, but still better play it safe," he thought. He dismissed them and spent the rest of the day with Kodohime and Sasama when she showed up. He took the 2 to his personal quarters and told them since he has multiple bloodlines he'll be able to marry up to 20 women for each bloodline in Konoha alone. He also told them that he planned on having some of his wives stay in Whirlpool to help govern the kingdom. They were both a little upset that they would have to share, but as long as he loved them equally they could live with it. He went to sleep with them all in their underwear after a hot make-out session with both girls. Naruto was the first to wake up. He smiled and kissed Kodohime and Sasama on the lips to wake them up. He made them breakfast and then got dressed in his regular clothes of black Anbu pants, a dark blue shirt with a Chunin-style vest over it, and black shinobi boots with steel toes, with his kodachi strapped to the bottom of his back, and got ready for the fight later today. Naruto arrived at the designated field at noon alone and spotted them. In fact, he had been observing them for a few minutes before he let himself be known when he used a high Shunshin no Jutsu that caught them off guard. Gurren and the others were waiting for the head of the Fuma clan to arrive. "I don't know why Orochimaru-sama sent me along with these brats," she thought. She was trying to ignore Tayuya's bantering when she was brought from her thoughts when a column of fire appeared in the middle of the field, and when it disappeared stood a kid. What the hell kind of Shunshin was that, and who the hell is this Gaki? Naruto looked at them and said, "I am the head of the Fuma clan. I am here to accept your challenge." Tayuya looked at him. "You've got to be kidding. You're just a young kid. Get lost, brat, and send the real clan head or we'll destroy this town." She finished with a smirk. Naruto had enough of her mouth and unleashed his chakra. He watched as every single one of them fell to their knees from the pressure and the killing intent he was unleashing as well. "You will watch your tongue. If you were a real kunoichi, then you would know age means nothing in the ninja world." He brought his chakra back under control and let his killing intent go. "I don't know how Orochimaru sweet-talked each of you into serving him, but nothing good can come for working for him. You 4 with the curse seals, do you even know what it does to you each time you use it? Sure, it gives you a power boost, but did you think it wouldn't come at a cost? I've studied the curse seal from Orochimaru's personal notes he left in Konoha after he left. Each time you use that seal, it slowly destroys your free will until all that is left of you is a mindless soldier for Orochimaru to do as he pleases. I'm sure you've all felt different after you use the seal more and more." He looked at their stunned faces. "I have found a way to remove the curse seal if you join me. However, if you fight me, I will kill you. I do not wish to, but I will do what I must to protect my precious people, and if you think you even stand a chance against, think again. That wasn't even 10% of my power you felt." Naruto finished. He could see the look of fear in each of their faces. "You don't know what you're talking about. Orochimaru-sama is a great man. He helps us." Gurren yelled. "He does not care for any of you. You are only pawns in his quest for power. He would kill every single one of you for even a fraction of greater power. Can you deny this after everything you have seen him do? He would kill an entire village if there was something or someone he wanted there, then swoop in and rescue whatever he wanted." Naruto spat out. Gurren had enough and charged him. She went through 4 hand seals and called out Shoten, Sushotu crystal release. jade crystal blade, and a blade of crystal appeared on both arms. Naruto easily dodged each swing and jumped up and spun around, kicking her and knocking her back. She got up and went through 4 more hand seals and yelled out Shoten, Amawatari no Jutsu, crystal release. The gods, crossings technique, and a long stream of sharp crystals came toward Naruto, who stood still. Ha, take that. That is what you get for badmouthing Orochimaru-sama. She smirked but quickly turned around when she heard, it is indeed an impressive attack, but it was too slow, and saw him behind her. Why do you wish to serve scum like him? What kind of man is he when he just throws away what no longer interests him? If you would serve me, I would protect you with my life and I would never abandon you. Naruto looked her in her eyes as he spoke. He could see the hesitation and doubt in her, and she only needed a little push. Come with me and you will never be lonely again, he spoke with a smile. It wasn't that fake smile Orochimaru would give her, but a real honest smile that made her feel warm inside. He held out his hand and she slowly took it. She was surprised how warm he was. He gently lifted her up and smiled at her. What is the name of my newest friend? He asked. Gurren. My name is Gurren. He smiled at her and kissed the back of her hand, making her blush. Well, Gurren-chan, my name is Naruto. I will tell you all about me when this is all over, okay? She nodded and he kissed her forehead this time. What the hell is wrong with me? I've never let a man do this kind of thing before. But I feel so safe around him. And turned around back towards the others who hadn't moved. The reason they hadn't moved was because they couldn't believe what they just saw and heard. This kid just easily beat one of Orochimaru's best and loyal servants and managed to sway her to his side. Each one of them was also thinking of what he said. They each knew deep down that nothing good could come from serving Orochimaru, but each of them just wanted to stop being lonely so bad. Yuya and Kin were a little jealous at the way that Hot Blonde was acting towards Gurren as well. Sakin and Uken gathered the others around, knowing what he was planning to say could get them killed by Orochimaru. He told them of his idea and they all silently agreed, even to Yuya. Sakin looked back at Naruto, who was watching him. We've come to an agreement. The 4 of us will fight you together, and if you win, the rest of us will join you and pledge our allegiance and loyalty to you, and if we win, well, you die. Also, if you win, you will get rid of the curse seal on us. Is this acceptable? Hi, that is acceptable. Naruto replied. Naruto had Gurren stand back and Sakin had the genin step back as well. Naruto drew his kodachis while the Sound 4 withdrew their weapons. The redhead Naruto noticed took out a flute. She must be a long-range fighter, he thought. The sight of a leaf touching the ground was the start for the battle to begin. 20 minutes later, Naruto was left standing without a scratch. The others were no match for him even in their Cure Seal level 2 forms. He created 4 shadow clones and had them heal the others. Gurren and the 3 genin were speechless. This person, who was the youngest out of all of them, had fought 5 Junin level ninja and beat them all without a scratch. Yuya was the first to regain consciousness. Ah, what the hell hit me? Naruto walked up to her and kneeled down and leaned into her, making her blush a little. That would be me. He smiled at her. He helped her into a sitting position and walked over to the others. Nice ass, she thought offhandedly. After 10 minutes, he had everyone sitting down and introduce themselves. Alright, let's start with you, genin. Naruto said. My name is Kinyuta Dosu. My skills are high genin and I use my melody arm on my right forearm for my sound attacks. Dosu said. My name is Abumi Zaku. My skills are mid-genin and like many sound ninja, I've been physically altered with hollow air tubes that extend through my arms and open through my hands, allowing me to propel a combination of air pressure and sound in various ratios, controlled by my chakra. Zaku said. My name is Tsuchi Kin. My skills are mid-genin and I use Senbon and bells for my genjutsu. Kin stated. Naruto smiled at her, causing her to look down and blush a little. Alright, you 4 next, Naruto commanded. My name is Sakin and this is my older twin brother Uken. We have a Kekkei Genkai called Soma no Ko that allows us to unify with another's body. Uken can separate from me into his own body, but he is not used to being outside of or leading my body and is much weaker when he does so. Also, each of us Sound 4 is skilled in creating barriers and seals. Sakin finished. My name is Jirobo. My fighting style consists mostly of basic physical strikes supplemented with the ability to use my chakra to hold the earth solid. I also dislike it when Tayuya uses foul language or when she calls me, fatso. He finished and Tayuya snorted at the end. She does indeed have a mouth on her, and I'll agree she needs to calm it down a bit and not call people hurtful names. Naruto said, giving Tayuya a look that made her humph and Naruto chuckle. Anyways, my name is Kitamaru. I am a long-range fighter and am an excellent tactical analyzer. He finished. My name is the Great Ing Tayuya. She was interrupted by Naruto. Tayuya, he said, giving her a look. Fine. My name is Tayuya. I am a long-range fighter as well and the only one of the members of the Sound 4 that actually uses sound as a weapon. My main weapon is a flute, and with it I can control my doki by playing specific melodies. Naruto looked at Gurren and nodded at her. My name is Gurren. I came from a small village where I was shunned by others because of my unique powers. Later, Orochimaru appeared and destroyed the entire village single-handedly. He was intrigued by my crystal release Kekkei Genkai and offered for me to come with him. I chose to follow him because I envied his power. Over the years I become loyal to that bastard to an almost obsessive state. She looked down but then felt a hand squeezing hers and looked up to see Naruto smiling at her. She smiled back, glad to have met him. Before I introduce who I am, let's get the business stuff out of the way. I do believe I kicked your, which would mean you 7 now serve me. And I believe I promised I would remove your curse seals, but there is a catch. I have never tested this before, so one of you gets to be the lucky test subject, he stated and grinned at them. The others looked at him before they looked at each other. Fine, you ing pussies, I'll do it. I'd rather be dead than a mindless body. Besides, nobody would miss me. She mumbled. Naruto stood up and walked to her and kneeled down in front of her and put a hand on each of her cheek and looked her in her eyes. Don't say that to Yuya. I would miss you, and I'm sure there are others in this group who would as well, even if they don't admit it. Then he surprised her by kissing her forehead and hugging her. I can't even remember the last time someone hugged me, she thought as a few tears ran down her face. Naruto had her sit down and had the others move back just in case. He unsealed some tools and started drawing seals around and on her curse seal on the back of her neck. He went through 25 hand seals and yelled out Fuinjutsu, Bachi Fu Heiho, sealing arts, curse seal removal. The others watched as the seals started circling around before entering Tayuya's curse seal, making her scream. They then watched as his hands started glowing white and she quieted down. After 2 minutes he stopped and took a breath and looked at her neck. He smiled and thought, it worked. He started a diagnostic jutsu and found that everything was fine, and hopefully her mind will be fixed when I added the healing abilities of my light element, he added. They waited 10 minutes until she came to. How are you feeling, Tayuya-chan? Naruto asked. Tayuya blushed when she realized what he called her but replied, fine. In fact, I haven't felt this good in a long time. My mind feels a lot clearer now too. Naruto smiled at her and kissed her forehead. I'm glad that it worked. During the removal of your seal I decided to see if I could apply a special healing ability of mine through my seal to see if I could heal your mind, and it looks like it worked. Now lie down and rest while I do the same with the others. With another kiss but to her cheek this time, she blushed and lay down. An hour later and each member of the Sound 4 had their curse seal removed and felt better than ever. Naruto created a clone and sent it to get Kotoheim, Sasama and Hanzaki. While it left, Naruto used another of his Mokuden techniques called Mokuden, Renshuka no Jutsu, wood release, serial pillar houses technique, and created 3 houses. One for him, one for the girls and one for the other guys. They were astonished to see him use the fabled bloodline of the Shodai Hokage, and when they questioned him he told them he would explain everything to them when his other guests arrive. Naruto spent time talking to each of them but took more time talking to Gurren, Yuya and Kin. A few minutes later Hanzuki, Sasama and Kodohime arrived. They were confused of the sight of the wooden houses and the way Naruto was acting towards his opponents. Naruto saw this and said, "They have decided to serve me after I beat some sense into them." He chuckled. He felt a small amount of killing intent coming from behind him and turned around and smiled and waved his hand at them and turned back to Hanzuki's group. "Now that you're here, I want us all to gather in the middle house. It's time I tell them who I am, as they don't even know my name except Gurren, but she only knows my first name." With that said, he motioned for everyone to follow him into the house. "Alright, time for my introduction. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. I am king of Whirlpool and the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. I am the only child and son of Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yellow Flash and Yondaime Hokage, and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's Red Death and daughter of the former king and queen of Whirlpool," Naruto stated. Naruto raised his hands to stall their questions and said, "Before you start asking questions, there is more to tell you. Since I have said this many times, I have created a jutsu that will show you everything in my life from the point Kyuubi was sealed into me up to right before I start the jutsu. After it's finished, you can ask any questions you have." Naruto went through 15 hand seals and called out Ninpo, Mu Kanran Waza, ninja art, life viewing technique. They watched the same thing the Kiri Nin saw. Even though he had told Hanzuki and Kodohime of his life, it was completely different from seeing it actually happen. The girls were sad and jealous when they saw Naruto and Kyuubi confess their love for each other and were planning on beating him for flirting with other women until they saw the scene with the CRA and were absolutely giddy. They saw the other women in his life he loved or had feelings for and were surprised and happy to see them among it. When it was over, he created shadow clones to comfort the women while he went to comfort Sasama. When everyone calmed down, he readied himself for what he was about to say. To Yuya, Kin, Sakin and Ukin, Jirobo, Kidomaru, Dosu, Zaku, he said, catching their attention, "I want you 7 to return to Otogakure and act as spies for me. With you 4 as his personal guards, you will have access to most of his plans for the future, and I'm sure the destruction of Konoha is in there somewhere." Also, in some of the notes he left in Konoha, he described his desire to obtain the Sharingan to further his collection of jutsu, and the only Uchiha he can beat would be Itachi's brother in Konoha. "If I were him, the perfect chance to capture the Sharingan and destroy the village would be during the Chunin exams, but since Konoha has raised its graduation age to 15, he has to wait a few more years until that's possible. And since you 3 are his best genin team, I'm sure he will send you to attend the Chunin exam in Konoha in 3 years, where I plan to be as well.